Good morning, good afternoon. I'm Paul Bagzai from the Impetus marketing team here. Welcome to yet another webinar on strategic elements of successful performance testing by Impetus Technologies. Today's webinar is being presented by Sachin Mehra. He's a performance engineering expert and has extensive experience in a variety of load testing tools, profilers, and other utilities that help in identifying and resolving performance bottlenecks. In our session today, Sachin will be talking about the strategic elements that are missing in the typical performance testing approach, leading to failure of any software or application. Now, let us have a look at what today's session has in store for us. Many a times we come across a situation where the performance test for an application passes with flying colors. However, later in production, the application exhibits poor performance characteristics. In today's webinar, we'll share with you why the typical approach towards performance testing does not give you the desired results. And we'll also share with you the strategic elements which, when adopted, can lead to an increased ROI on your performance testing initiatives, and also ensure successful performance of an application before its release. So before we start today, I would like to share with you that these strategic elements have been identified based on our years of experience and proficiency in the performance engineering space. Sachin will now take over the session from here. Over to you, Sachin.
Thanks, Paul. Hello, everyone. I think most people would agree that users want faster applications these days. Nobody has the patience and willingness to wait for a slow-working application. Probably this is the reason why businesses are trying to ensure that their application performance testing is included in the SDLC. They know that if their application does not deliver, the customers will be unhappy, and they're most likely to move on to the next best option. Performance testing has become an integral part of SDLC. Everyone has a defined approach for performance testing. Let's look at what is the typical approach that most organizations will be following. This is a very high-level approach and usually customized at every organization. The process starts with understanding the non-functional requirements, business domain, functionality, and technology. Then we plan and design the performance test, set up the test environment, including the hardware, software, and the network topology. Then we select an appropriate tool for performance testing. We create test assets, develop and execute the test scripts, and then we analyze and interpret results. Finally, we report the results. Let me take a pause here. Let's understand your experiences with the standard approach. Paul, can you please roll the poll?
Certainly, Sachin. The audience can now see the poll question running on the screen. We want to know if they are satisfied with the results that they are achieving with their existing performance testing approach. The options are yes, no, or whether you're not sure about it. The audience has a total of 30 seconds to respond to the question. Sachin, we have the responses, and a good number, approximately 62% among the audience has indicated they are not really satisfied with the results achieved by their existing performance strategy. What's your take on this, Sachin?
Well, I'm not surprised. This is the kind of feedback that we get from our customers. We have had similar experiences where even after following the standard approach, the results were not satisfactory. There are typical results that we get from this following the standard approach. We have seen that applications that pass in performance tests, they also fail at production. When they fail, the customers are dissatisfied. We have not planned for this failure. It was not intended. Production environment is the real thing. This is where the application is supposed to perform. Any kind of performance results which are great or good in test environment but not in production are not sufficient. The reports coming out of the performance test are not usually sufficient to identify and fix the bottlenecks. They don't give the real information. They are inaccurate, inconsistent, and the results are not repeatable. Now the big question is, when our best laid plans for performance testing fail to deliver, what is it that we are doing wrong? We are going to address these questions. We'll share the strategic elements of performance testing that might be the missing link in your approach. We have classified the strategic elements into three logical areas. Let's start with the first one, business processes. This is like saying, let's put the business first. Usage pattern is the first strategic element. How many people are going to use our application? What modules will they use? What time? For how long? These kind of questions get answered when we talk about the usage pattern. The focus should be on the real-world usage pattern. For example, In a shopping application, there are more people searching for products and doing their purchases versus the number of users who are registering on the website. Let's look at it from the testing perspective. What good it is if I'm trying to simulate a huge load doing the registration. The realisticness should come from doing the searches and the purchase scenarios. Production systems should be analyzed closely to identify such representative scenarios that are used by the user. Product owners and business analysts can help here. A well-designed workload should be predictable, repeatable, and scalable. Workload modeling can help. The test scenarios should be a mix of the actual production scenario. And that's the way we will be able to actually represent the customer in our test scenario. Another strategic element in business processes is the human delay. The human delay represents the time that the user takes in inputting the information for the system or reading out this information given by the system. This delay in technical terms is called the think time. The think time impacts the concurrency level that the server can support. If the think times are on the lower side, the application will have higher hit rate and this can affect the performance. On the contrary, if the values are on the lower side, it can provide better than expected results as the concurrency is reduced. In one of our assignments, we observed that the application was not scaling as expected. When we observed, we realized that the human delay was inaccurate. We discussed with the product owner and the business analyst, and we updated this human delay correctly in line with the business. And when we re-executed the test, we were able to scale up to 1,000 concurrent users. This is an important factor that needs to be considered when strategizing our performance test. Another strategic element in business process is the external systems. The external systems play an important role in an enterprise world.
Sachin, excuse me. I would like to interrupt you here, Sachin, for a moment. So you explained about the business processes impact on software performance, and just now mentioned about the external systems as well. So it has got me thinking, and probably our audience also would like to know, why should one consider external systems as critical rather than concentrate on my own application performance?
All the enterprise applications essentially don't work alone. There are payment gateways, archiving services, logging services, ESBs, queues, another web services. There are a lot of integration points for enterprise applications. Now, for the external systems play an important role in production, hence we should not at all ignore them in the test environment. The test environment should replicate all such systems which will be experienced by the user, because user will not differentiate between external and the system that he is using. If it is impossible to use an external system, we should try to put an emulator, something that can simulate the external system. This will be very helpful when predicting the response of our system in production while testing. Let's look at the next area, test assets. Data characteristics play an important role in performance testing. The size and nature of test data can vastly affect the test results. The data volume matters a lot. For example, if I'm working on a search application which is searching on 5,000 records in my database, it is going to be fast versus if I'm searching on 1,000,000 records in my database. The size and the richness of the content should be similar to the production data. Hence, it is recommended that we use the production data for our testing. If it is not possible to use the production data because it has proprietary information or the customer specific information, we should mask such information and still use the production data. If it is still not possible to use production data, we should try to emulate the data in size and nature, in content richness, similar to production data. This is very important from the strategic perspective on any test plan. Another strategic element in test assets is the test environment. Environment encompasses the hardware, software, and the network topology. All of these matter. any kind of discrepancies between the test environment or the test environment and the production can big problem while analyzing the results or trying to predict how the users are going to experience in production. It is recommended to have a production-like environment. If we cannot have that same environment because of the nature of production environment or the cost implications, we should use statistical tools to predict the behavior in production. They may not be very accurate, but it will give us a perspective. Using WAN emulators or simulating different bandwidths in the test environment can help a lot to see how the user is going to see our application. The next strategic element is the script. I'm not saying that the script is missing link, but verification and validation is the missing link. A lot of times we just record and play back the script. We don't validate those scripts for the business criteria that we talked about in usage pattern to be implemented in the script. So what if my script passes for, let's say, a scenario where we are trying to log in just because we are getting a response? That response could be invalid credentials. This does not represent a business scenario that the user is expecting. We should ensure that we capture correctly what is supposed to be a correct response, and if required, we should use means to validate this return data for a database as well. We should test the scripts before running the test. So what I'm saying is, test the scripts before the scripts are used to test our business. Verifying the test that was successful with the multi-users requires numbers of records in the database entries. We should check whether the database has those records created or updated in it. This will validate that the results are accurate and they represent real business. The next area is analysis and reporting. See, the sole purpose of doing the performance testing exercise is to analyze and understand how and what will happen in production. So analysis and reporting play a critical role here. The applications and their response are usually cached at starting from your browser to the data, the file system, and the firewall. There are different types and nature of caches that are maintained by the system that we are using. It is not recommended that we use cache while trying to do a performance testing, because it will not give us the correct response that would be actually experienced by the user. We should always bring the test environment to an initial state before starting any test. This will ensure that our results are consistent, repeatable, and accurate. Our systems are typically deployed on servers, and they use operating systems, database, application server, etc. All of these resources require monitoring. Resource monitoring is the next strategic element that I want to do. It's not that people are not doing it. Okay, if they're not, they should. That's the first recommendation. However, there are a lot of times when we are using independent monitoring options. This is not good. There are a lot of failures while doing the manual monitoring because you have to start and stop these monitors. It is recommended that we use integrated resource monitoring tools because it makes analysis easier, saves you time and effort, which eventually comes out to be the cost for the organization. And this is a feature which is available in most industry standard tools like LoadRunner, SilkPerformer, or Sandstorm, which is Impetus' flagship performance testing tool. Resource monitoring, if done correctly, will give us in-context information with what we are collecting as the information from the system. This will be very helpful in identifying the bottlenecks. The next strategic element is the response time. The transaction response is measured using various statistical tools like averages, standard deviation, the 90th percentile. All of such tools have different reasons. Whatever you use, you should consistently use the same tool because your benchmark is based on this tool. If you change it, it will not give any kind of meaning to the test result that you're representing. Another aspect to look at is this tool should include the processing time for creating the request. And if you're ensuring that it is not including the processing time for creating the request, it's actually better. We should carefully measure the performance from the system by avoiding to include any such client-side processing that the tool might have. Sandstorm provides a mechanism to choose transaction boundaries by selecting the transaction start response time after or before the request is sent. Now this is very good because this criteria will ignore any client-side processing in response time calculations. Whatever you do, document it and keep repeating so that the benchmark results are helpful in getting the accurate results. With these strategic elements included in a standard approach, you will have a very good success ratio. These will solve the problems that we have discussed. I'm not saying that these will probably solve all possible problems that you will have, because specific problems may require specific solution. But these strategic elements would definitely help in ensuring that you are successful with your performance testing.
Thank you, Sachin. That was indeed very insightful. Now, before we move ahead, I would like to recap what we have covered till now. So we have looked at the standard approach to performance testing and its results. Seems like a majority of members among our audience today are really not happy with the results that they are able to get. We learned about the strategic elements from a business process, test, assess, and analysis and reporting perspective, which can help increase the ROI on performance testing initiatives. Sachin, I'm sure the audience will also want to hear about some real-world case studies where these strategic insights or elements have been incorporated, and I'm sure it must have led to a better performing software or application and eventually a more confident and successful customer. Of course, minus any unexpected but always suspected performance failures.
Right, Paul. I have 2 case studies to discuss and share with our audience today. The first case study is about the workforce management solution. Our client is a market leader in workforce management solutions like timekeeping, payroll, leave management. They had this problem with the release certification process. They wanted to certify each release before it goes out, with the release cycle was 2 weeks. We started off with discussion with their marketing and the business team. We identified that they have very different types of customers, and we tried to understand and categorize these customers. We were able to identify that we can broadly classify the kind of implementations based on their database size and the number of users at each site into small, medium, and large implementations. Performance critical business scenarios were identified for each product, and we regularly updated it based on the usage patterns. The test environment, we decided we'll use the deployment environment as our test environment. It should be the same and the similar at the customer site. This helped us ensure that the test environment is on the customer side, and we are working with the customer to identify the kind of data and the business scenarios they have. In our scripts, we used SQL verification to ensure that the actual tests were taking care of the business being executed at the database level. We used automated integrated resource monitoring tools. And finally, we tested our proposed approach by using it in the real production deployment. It helped strengthen our process, our approach, as well as our confidence in using it. As a benefit, the customer was very happy. We were able to simulate the load as per the customer implementation, and there was a formal process of performance testing and its certification for every release. The second case study that I have is from a leading financial risk management solutions provider. Our client is a major player in the financial services sector and has a complete suite of products for this vertical. They started out with a new product which had a few outages. This was a big problem for them because there was significant loss of revenues and customer faith in the client. They wanted to formalize and have a repeatable, consistent approach for the release certification. We started by analyzing the performance critical scenarios based on the usage patterns. These patterns we identified using the production log and the database activities. We documented them and verified with their business team, their user group. They helped us identify the scenarios which were actually used and critical for the success. We formalized an approach where we set up a test lab which was similar to the production deployment. We used approximately 3 to 5 terabytes of production data to simulate our test. The data was customer sensitive, so we masked it. We executed the load, endurance, and focus test. The benefits were fabulous. The customer was able to get the benefits they were looking for. Our simulation was based on production data and the critical scenarios. The formal approach of performance testing was laid out, which they could use for every release for their continuous performance testing. There was a 25% reduction in the time that was taking them to create their test data for every release. It was huge savings in the cost.
Right. Thanks, Sachin. It was very exciting to know about these case studies. We've already started receiving questions from the audience, and I would like to remind our audience once again that we will be taking up the questions towards the end of the webinar. And they can send in the questions using the chat window on their WebEx panel. Now, before we move to the questions, I would like to give a brief overview of other areas of performance engineering where we have helped organizations forecast potential performance failures or enhance system performance, reduce implementation risk, and also improve overall cost effectiveness of the performance initiatives. Our core services in this area include performance testing and sizing, system diagnostics, performance tuning and optimization, client-side performance optimization, and capacity planning as well. With our expertise in the performance testing domain, we have created our own automated load testing or automated performance testing tool called Sandstorm. Sandstorm helps predict system behavior and performance. It exercises an entire enterprise infrastructure by emulating thousands of users to identify and isolate problems. The tool offers platform independence and can be used successfully deployed on any operating system that supports Java. We have recently released the version 5.4 of the Sandstorm tool, and we invite the audience to download the evaluation version of Sandstorm and see for themselves the host of benefits that the tool offers and will bring to your performance testing initiatives. And of course, not to miss the at least 30% reduction in performance testing costs compared to any other market-leading tool. With this, I would now like to introduce you to our organization, Impetus Technologies. With ongoing investments in research and application of emerging technology areas, innovative business models, and an agile approach, we partner with our client base comprising exclusively of large-scale ISVs and technology innovators to deliver cutting-edge software products and technology R&D services. Our expertise spans the domains of performance engineering, testing, large-scale data management, cloud computing, data analytics, mobile, SaaS, social media, among others. We'll now take up the questions we have received from the audience. Sachin, the first question we have received from one of the audience members is, how does one identify the representative scenarios and think times for performance testing?
Testing. The representative scenarios actually encompass the things that we actually do in production. Business owners, the analysts, the marketing team, they can provide a lot of information on this. Production logs, if we check them, we will get a lot of information on what modules are being executed most often. Architects give us a lot of information. And then there are automated tools like Core Metrics that can collect such information and share with us.
Thanks, Sachin. Another member from the audience would like to know, how would you approach testing multiple web or web service applications hosted in the same environment? That is like all utilizing the same IIS or Tomcat or SQL service?
Okay, this is actually related with the first question. So let's look at it from this perspective. Our application, we talked about the usage scenarios, the strategic element which emphasizes on the real world usage. And a typical scenario would have an application used by multiple users for various features simultaneously. This is what we need to replicate in this scenario. Our approach should be to simulate the web services, the web HTTP, and any other scenario at the same time. So there could be different percentages of users doing these activities. For example, 40% of the users simulating the web action in 5 or 6 different scenarios or modules, 2 or 20 to 30% users executing the web services as it would happen in the real production environment. This will put in the correct amount of load on the IIS, Tomcat, and the SQL Server, or whatever tools servers you're using. I hope that answers the query.
Yeah, thank you, Sachin. Another member wants to know, like we referred to the Sandstorm performance testing tool during the webinar. Can you briefly describe how the tool Sandstorm can help in achieving the referred strategic elements during the performance testing?
Sure, Paul. Sandstorm offers lots of features that can make it suitable for efficient performance testing of applications built using technologies ranging from J2E, .NET, mobile, all web services. It offers like integrated resource monitoring, which is a very good feature for analyzing as well as from the perspective of getting the correct results. It offers multiple think time options, which means simulating the actual user behavior. This is the human behavior that we want to capture. It provides transaction response time boundaries, which means we will talk about only the response time and not the time taken by the tool to create that request. It provides response verification mechanism, which means we can actually verify that the test was executed correctly. It provides a lot of other features that can be looked upon our website for Sandstorm, sandstorm.impetus.com.
All right, thanks, Sachin. Another member has asked, in case the performance test and production environments are not comparable, how can we use the results and predict the performance in production? Are there any statistical tools or models available today?
Many times it is not possible to simulate the production environment for performance testing because of budget or time constraint or other factors. In such case, performance tests are executed in a scaled down environment. In order to estimate the performance in production, these results can be used for exploration. Extrapolation techniques and mathematical models based on Little's law can be used. It might not be accurate as running the test in the environment, but it would give you a good estimate of the performance numbers. I hope that
helps. Yeah, absolutely. I think a related question is from one of the members is, from capacity planning standpoint, is your solution framework based or tool based? Can you shed some light on that?
Capacity planning, we have multiple algorithms that can help us do the capacity planning. There are tools which use these algorithms to give the kind of results that we want. What these tools do essentially is they try to predict the behavior based on the input on what kind of data is available for prediction. The prediction will be as good as the input that we put in.
All right. Thank you. Sachin, another related question about Sandstorm again. The audience member wants to know how well does Sandstorm work in a Flex 3 or Flex 4 application?
Oh, that's an interesting question because we have recently launched the latest version of Sandstorm, which takes care of Flex-based applications, and it works seamlessly with Flex-based application, mobile protocols, very specific protocols like SIP, OAMP, and a host of other services. Sandstorm works great, and I think there is a free evaluation copy available for download for the audience to use and give us suggestions on it.
All right. Thanks, Sachin. I think that's all the time we have today, and the rest of the questions, I think we can handle them or respond to them over the email, or we can give you a call personally. Please feel free to contact us again on the email ID I'll just mention to you on this next slide. So thank you once again for joining us today, and we hope that this discussion has been a learning experience for all and will add value to your performance engineering initiatives. If you have any questions, please email us at inquiry@impetus.com or visit our website at www.impetus.com. Or if you're interested in knowing more about the Sandstorm tool in particular, it's sandstorm.impetus.com. I'd also like to inform our audience that we will be at the Star East conference as a speaker on mobile performance testing, and we'll be also exhibiting our testing expertise and tools at the show. So if you're interested in meeting with us at the event, please drop us an email and we'll get back to you. Thank you once again. Have a good day. Bye-bye.